We're going to work on a Hypalon boat today. So first thing we've got is a boat that doesn't hold air. We're going to soap the boat down. But in the assessment process, I found a couple of spots leaking like this. We have this going on because it's an older boat. It's been well used, but it's still got a lot of life in it. Let's work on keeping air in this boat and move forward. Okay, so we've assessed our repair and we've gotten the boat flat. Again, there's several areas on this boat. I'm going to focus on one area for this tutorial, which is going to be this area. We'll lay a patch over this wear spot. Just don't feel like I've got a perfectly flat surface. So what we're going to do is use a block to kind of lift that spot on the boat up. And now I can move the fabric around and until I get a spot where I don't have any creases and I've got a good solid surface to work on. Next thing is material. This is a scrap of Hypalon. Oftentimes, if I'm trying to make a round patch, I'll kind of size it up and I'll use something like a roll of tape. And with that, we have a nice round patch. What we're doing is mechanically preparing the material to accept the adhesive. Sit down and do this. This will take a couple minutes. I'm sure you're going to edit a lot of this out. And the next step is we're going to do the same exact process with the patch on the back side. Again, we're just roughing it up and you can see the difference. This is probably one of the steps that most folks don't show enough detail to when they do patches. When I find patches that have come off or are coming off, it's generally due to a lack of proper prep. So now we have our two surfaces prepped, and now we're going to set that aside for just a minute and talk about chemicals. In this case, we're repairing a Hypalon boat. So what we're going to use is Toluene. It is a solvent. It is also the solvent that is the base for the adhesive, which is, in this case, we're using a Clifton Hypalon adhesive. Kind of the gold standard for Hypalon boats. It's what we like to use the most. So, in working with these chemicals, again, air. Absolutely critical that you have fresh air. We have a ventilation system in our shop. Even so, I wear a respirator anytime I'm dealing with the glues and the solvents. So the next step that we'll go through, can you hear me? Is that going to work? So the next step that I'm going to go through is chemically cleaning the patch and the boat. We're going to use Toluene, again, gloves, respirator. It'll take only a moment, but okay, so now we have a chemically clean surface. Our patch is clean, our boat's clean, we're prepped, we're ready for glue. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through a process of laying a thin layer of glue on the boat and a thin layer of glue on the patch. We'll let that dry to a tack. Once that's dry, we'll put another layer on. We'll let that dry to a tack. The way to test that, it's called the Knuckle Test, I guess. You should be able to stick your knuckle on the patch and not have it stick. Okay, so we've got our 3 coats of glue on the patch and our 3 coats of glue on the raft, dried to the knuckle test, and we're ready to do the application process. Again, this is a contact adhesive, and while it doesn't feel sticky, as soon as it touches the other glued surface, it will be glued. It's really important that you don't pull the patch off to try to straighten it, and you need to think about how the patch is going to roll on so that you don't get any wrinkles, bubbles, or inconsistencies in the patch. So I generally start from one edge, and I'll roll my patch into position. Again, being careful not to have any bubbles in the boat, in the patch. And now we've got the patch in place. We want to roll the patch, and that's generally what I use. If you don't have that, you can use a piece of pipe and get a good roll on it that way. Socket, whatever. If you're out on the river, again, this handy tool, your roller rasp, is specifically for roll in the patch. It doesn't cover a wide area, but it does put a lot of pressure on the patch. So it might take you a second to work across it with this tool, but if you work it back and forth, you'll get a nice flat patch surface. We feel like we've got a good bond. We'll clean up the edges with a little toluene. Once we've got the patch installed, our cleanup done, and everything rolled into place, the patch needs to cure for a minimum of 12 hours. I like to see a 24-hour cure time. And it also needs to be weighted. It just helps get a really good bond. The more weight you can get on that, the better. In this case, what we're going to do is use a board to distribute the weight. We've got a flat surface underneath that we jigged up when we began the project. And I'm just going to take that and drop a 30-pound anchor right on our patch. For this patch, I think that'll be adequate. Generally, I like to do about 50 pounds on a patch, or, depending on the patch, even use a jack or some method to get some more weight on it. So now we've got our repair finalized. We're going to let it cure for 12 to 24 hours. We'll come in and inflate the boat, make sure the repair is solid, and it's ready to hit the river. Again, in this series, we've covered the very basics for a new boat owner and what's in a raft kit, and progress towards building a comprehensive raft kit. We've covered how to assess a repair, and now we've covered a basic Hypalon repair. Again, none of this is very complicated. It's something that every boat owner should know how to do. It's the basic repairs. It makes you more self-reliant and capable on the river, and it can save you a lot of money. As we move forward in the series, we hope to get more complex and comprehensive repairs. If you have any questions at all, feel free to call the Trailhead. We're here to help, and hope to see you on the water.